All right, hello everyone. Today I'm just sitting in the garden here and just wanted to share some thoughts. So, basically, what I want to talk about in this video is the idea of entirely embracing the dream that you find yourself in after awakening, right? So, you go through these shifts and you see that, yeah, your whole identity collapses. And it can be very disorientating, very destabilizing. And just sharing from my own path, like one of the key things is seeing that the subtle fixation that people fall into is this kind of wanting to exit the dream. Maybe I'm just speaking to myself here, so if this doesn't resonate with you, it doesn't matter. I guess, yeah, I'm just kind of unpacking my own insights in this video and posting it for anybody that it resonates with. But so to speak from my own experience, there's definitely been these stages, right, where as identity crumbles, right, as everything that I took myself to be dissolves and disappears, there's this tendency to want to not not be a part of the dream, right? But I guess suffering is always your greatest teacher, because what has become clear for me is that every time that kind of pattern plays out from me, it leads to suffering, and that's because it's a pushing against what reality or life is asking of me. And when I surrender to it, and the funny thing is with surrender, it doesn't play out how the mind thinks it does. Like, my mind has often told the story that surrender is just not trying to make anything happen, and in a sense that's true, but you can also, or I can, find myself in a surrender that is saying no, right? And it's a balance, right? Any of these phases, it's a learning phase. It's the only way that you come to these insights is through trying and then seeing, does it feel like a natural flow, or does it feel like suffering, right? And that's what I've come to learn, right? Is that, so for example, one aspect of this was like not wanting to work in the relative, right? Wanting to just kind of do my own thing, whether that's the YouTube and the coaching and the kind of whatever, doing my own thing, building my own business. And sure, I think that's where things are going in the long run, but life has other plans for me that I was saying no to, right? So just like work in the relative, working with kite surfing businesses that wanted me to teach for them. And yeah, it's just, for me, that's when the insight dawned, that when I surrendered to, what wanted to say no, what wanted to have its own idea of how things were going to play out, and that had to be surrendered by, it's like that gets surrendered by exposing yourself to life circumstances. You can't avoid anything, right? So if something is popping up in your reality, it's asking, so you have to feel into it for yourself. So it's asking to be seen, it's asking to be addressed, and you have to feel into, like, what is that for you, right? So for me, it was like, I knew that if I didn't take up this kite surfing work, I was going to be avoiding something, right? I was like, there's people that I would see, and I would just be trying to dance around something, when the natural easiest flow was just to take the job. And as soon as I did it, it felt like a release on my side. So that was when it really was clear to me that it's like, oh wow, there was something that wanted to not do that. But again, like I said, these kind of phases are the only way that you see these things. So there's no right or wrong in it. There's just a willingness to ask yourself, why am I suffering? What am I avoiding? Right? And it shifts into all aspects of life, because none of it is separate at later stages in the journey. And a willingness to surrender honoring what feels authentic for you, but sometimes you just have to surrender to what life is asking of you. So that's why it's this natural balance, it's this natural dance of, the small mind doesn't always know what's best, right? It's interesting, the non-dual marketplace, the awakening marketplace, the spiritual marketplace is so, this is a mix of so many opinions, right? But the people that seem the clearest to me, they've been through these phases where, there's this whole like weirdness to it, I was just watching a bunch of interviews from some people I know, and there's this ungrounded phase, right? This ungrounded phase, like of awakening, of no self, of non-duality, where, it's spiritual ego, and it's spiritual ego that knows it's spiritual ego, but it's just playing it for fun. But it's like, I don't know, there's a silliness to it when that grounds itself later, right? So these same people that I was watching come back later, and you can see it's grounded by engaging in this, in the dream, in reality, right? You can't wake up and exit the matrix. You see that there's no need to do that, but you'll have to see all the parts of you that want to. That's what it's been for me, right? Like, this is where astrology was actually quite helpful for me, is seeing that, like, my kind of shadow side is escapism, right? So finding meditation and going on retreats and all of that played a massive role in my path, but it's also a little bit my trap, is wanting to say no to everything in the external and just go within indefinitely. But that's not meant to be, that's ungrounded, right? And things will play out like synchronistically and in unexpected ways, right? So like, yeah, when I knew that I needed to kind of immerse myself more in the relative aspects of life, again, to try to put it in less abstract terms, because I know a lot of this terminology sounds quite abstract. But basically, I was just walking on the beach the other day and bumped into somebody random, a kite surfing friend that I know, and he said, "Oh, he's looking for." And I had literally just the previous kite surfing job that I had ended, and I was like, "Yes, now I can just focus on the coaching and the online business, because that's in my control, right? That's my realm, that's my business." But life wanted other things, because I bumped into this guy, and it was literally as my previous job had finished, and he was like, "I'm looking for kite surfing instructor, are you free?" And I was like, "Of course you are." I didn't say that, but this was like, yeah. So anyways, I try to avoid the job for a while, and things just weren't flowing right. Things just didn't feel right, and then I took it and everything felt good again. So that's just like a concrete example of how this plays out. And the point I'm trying to make there as well is it happens. You just have to be willing to be open to what is coming up, and you have to be honest in yourself of, am I making myself suffer somehow here? And your shadow is going to be unique to you, right? So I don't know what your shadow is going to be, but my shadow is this escapism kind of side of myself. You see, my tooth is I get self-conscious of it when I'm recording, because a long time ago I was playing football with a friend and I knocked this tooth on his head and it died, so now it's got a funny color, and in some lightings it's more noticeable than others. Anyways, that just pulled my attention. But yeah, your story, your kind of fixations, your shadow is going to be unique to you, and so the way to realize it and work through it is to be open to what is coming up in my reality, right? Your reality is you, but you have to meet it. That's the key. And the more you open up, things are going to pop up, right? The next step is going to appear, but then are you going to say no to it, or are you going to, and maybe you do for a while, and that's fine, right? Like, as I said, that's a learning phase. That's a part of the journey. But at some point, that's how you navigate the suffering that's arising, is, why am I suffering, right? You have to be so honest with yourself. What is this about? What's coming up? And again, it's such a personal exploration, right? When I'm working with somebody one-on-one, we can explore this together, and through that exploration of holding space for them, it generally helps to come up, right? That's why people do this non-dual coaching, inquiry, whatever it is, healing. So much happens in that space because I'm opening up my energy to your energy, and it's a powerful space. But you can, it can happen through this video as well, right? There's still stuff happening through a video. So yeah, you just have to be honest with yourself, be open. What am I avoiding? What am I afraid of? What feels like there's something small, even it can feel murky, right? There's something that I'm being pulled towards that I'm saying no to. I'm not allowing. What am I not allowing to happen? It can be internal, right? So this is what I used to talk a lot about, is symptoms, and I'll probably still talk about it because it's helpful for people. But at the same time, it's just the same formula for the internal and the external, right? What is happening externally that I'm saying no to? Or am I saying yes to too many things that I maybe need to say no to something, right? Like, as I said, that pulling back is not a bad thing, but you just have to, it's why it's so difficult to talk about, because there's no one way that it is. Sometimes, I always come back to this. I've shared it with quite a few people, but Angelo Deludo, who many of you are probably sick of me saying his name, but apologies. He was my teacher for such a long time that always his teachings always come to mind. And disintegration and integration is the key thing here, right? And Angelo said in a talk once that when reality, like the reason the mind suffers is because when reality is asking you to disintegrate, which is what a lot of people find when they've got these illnesses, is you're being asked to go into the disintegrative, right? This is what happened for me, like 2 years where you're going within now. Everything shuts off outside of you, right? You can't work, you can't exercise, you can't socialize, and there's an intelligence to that. But you suffer because you fight it, right? This is how I suffered for the first year and a half of my chronic illness. I was fighting this disintegrative phase of the process. I was saying, I want to be doing what everybody else is doing. I want to be exercising. I want to be working on my career. I want to have a girlfriend. I want to be doing this, right? But that's saying no to the disintegrative phase. So the disintegrative phase has its intelligence as well. But there's also the integrative phase, right? And that was kind of what happened after I so-and-so called healed, where I was asked to step back into reality. And then it continues to happen, right? But it's maybe less like as a stock, like, okay, 2 years of disintegration and 2 years of integration. Like the way it's played out for me is now there's like phases, right? They'll be like, I'll take a week off and I'll go spend some time in nature. But then I get attached to that, and then I'm denying the integrative phase after that, where it's like, okay, now you have to go and be in the relative, right? With normal people. You can't just hang out with people that are on the same level of awareness as you, because what's the point of that? But that might sound all complicated, but again, to bring it back down to concrete terms, is you just need to see, what are you saying no to in your reality? What are you avoiding? Because that whole thing, that's like the metaphysical understanding of it, but it's playing out in your world, right? So again, just take this and apply it to what is coming up that I'm not allowing, that I'm saying no to, whether it is that I'm being asked to spend more time in solitude and I'm not allowing that, I'm afraid of that, or I'm being asked to go and do something, right? Or I'm afraid of, like, which am I most afraid of as well? Touch into that. That was for me. I could feel there's a part of me that was afraid. I didn't want to go get a new kite surfing job. It's like, yeah, I want to be in what I know. I want to be in what feels safe. But that's the trap, right? So yeah, I'm just kind of sharing my experience with this, and then you can just apply it to your own life, hopefully, and take it from there. So you always have to bring it back to yourself, right? Any teachings, any pointings, you have to bring it back to yourself, and see. And it's not any different in the sense that, don't worry about my world because it's playing out in your world, right? You're finding my videos because there's a resonance there, right? There's something that's being transmitted, but it's being transmitted, and then at the same time, what's being transmitted is to look into your world, if that makes sense. So yeah, one more point is, like, there's a teacher that I like, Bentino Massaro, and a while ago, I was listening to one of his old talks, and he was saying how you're meeting yourself all the time, but you actually have to go and meet yourself, right? So that you're meeting yourself in the relative, and how your kind of awakening deepens in your transformative journey, right? Even if the term awakening doesn't land, but if you're this far in the video, you wouldn't be here. All the stuff I said earlier would make no fucking sense. But how willing are you to meet yourself, right? How willing are you to go into the world and see your own reflections, right? Because the world is just reflecting back your projections, it's reflecting back your insecurities, it's reflecting back your resistance patterns. But you're not going to see all of that if you're not willing to meet the world, right? So when you have this kind of awakening where you're like, okay, I'm not separate. Maybe you haven't even had the awakening, but you've heard me tell you it. That's one step of it. The other side of it is now you have to meet the world, and you can meet the world at any stage of the journey as well. But yeah, that's really key, right? Because the mind just wants to recreate a world that it knows, even if it's after awakening, right? Even if it's after deep insight, it's going to keep on wanting to be like, okay, so this is the world I'm safe in, and that's the world I'm not safe in, and I'm going to stay in this world. But you're just creating a new fixation, a new duality, right? And I've seen it in myself multiple times. So I'm really just exposing that part of myself here. That, if you're afraid of an external, again, it's okay to have like times of hermit mode or, like this seclusion phase, but is it out of fear of meeting yourself in others? Because every person that I've spoken to, not every person, but many, you get so much transformation from your reflection from others. It's going to mirror your patterns and your triggers that you're never going to see on your own. So don't see it as a bad thing. It's this person's triggering me. See it as a gift. This person's triggering me. Thank God. How would I have ever seen that trigger if this person didn't reflect it to me? How would I ever have noticed that subtle bit of resistance that was still in the system, but it wasn't going to come there from just hours and hours of meditation? The ego gets comfortable with that. So find out these spaces, right? Get the grit. Let life squeeze out what's still in there. Okay, I don't want to make this too long, so I'll leave it there. Good luck, and I'll see you soon.